exactly. And that is paired up with the Palkia VStar combination. The energy split also quite interesting. We have 6 water energies, 4 speed lightning energies, and 1 lightning energy over there. And on the other side, we have...
It looks like the original... It's the wrong Alex. So we were told we were getting Alex, which happened to be the Vikavolt Palkia matchup. So we apologise there. It is in fact Alex Kamansky who's going to be playing Giratina V. We saw them earlier on stream already. So this is going to be the Giratina mirror match, one with Arceus and one with Lost Zone.
Yeah, so apologize for that confusion. I hope we get to see Vikavolt potentially in that semi-final that was
I believe. I believe the whole way.
Let's believe and talk about that in a second. But for now, Alex Szymanski rocking that Giratina V Lost Zone engine against that Arceus Giratina, a matchup that we have seen before, and I'm really interested to see how that Pikachu plays out here. I want to believe that he started with that Pikachu and had to find a way around that. But looking at that first turn, actually, we see Arceus in play and has a lightning energy attached as well, which you can use for the Pikachu. But of course, that Arceus uses any free colors energies. So having that in turn 1 played down gives you the option to go for that Trinity Charge. Trinity Nova actually in your following turn. The Radiant Gardevoir is actually quite interesting tech here as well, because it reduces the damage by Pokemon V by 20. So especially in that Giratina mirror, it will be quite important, and it will be interesting to see if that 20 damage makes the difference.
Yeah, and I do just want us to reset the scene here.
Yes, please.
We came into this, we were very excited for a deck that we hadn't seen before, and just a little bit of a miscommunication, got the wrong Alex. Very easy mistake to make. I've been mispronouncing names all day long, and when they're spelt differently but sound the same, it can get tricky. But anyway, we're here. Alex is here. He's got an amazing deck here. Lots of interesting prize cards as well. 3 really important options there that there's only one of in the deck. The Luminion, the Sableye, and that Snorlax. If they are searched for by Alex, they will not be possible to get out until they're out the prizes. And so this is one of those matchups we've seen a fair amount of throughout the Swiss. So Giratina with Lost Engine is an important card to... it's an important deck to be able to beat a lot of the meta right now, but can struggle when it comes to decks that are just so fast and disrupt the Lost Engine. And on the other side, the Arceus Giratina, once that Starbirth comes out, it is very consistent. It gets everything it needs to, but can sometimes lack the firepower because that Arceus attack of Trinity Nova struggles to hit big numbers with only hitting 180 on that double turbo energy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think Lucas, despite having the Pikachu start, which is not optimal, he still got his Arceus out. He's still got the 1 energy attachment you want in turn 1. So he's pretty set for that evolution and Starbirth next turn, potentially getting a way to promote it into the active position and attack, charging up a bench Giratina, which is, of course, a great way to enter this game. On the other side, Alex Szymanski actually playing his comfy line, starting to increase his Lost Zone count. Not quite sure if 7-2 is the exact Lost Zone count. I see 2 on Lucas' side and 3, potentially even 7, I suppose, cards on Alex's side. Quite heavy with that potential of Colress Experiment, of course, and the Flower Selection getting up there.
Yeah, needing that 7 for the Mirage Gate, the main way of accelerating in the Lost Engine, and that will allow any coloured basic energy to come out and be attached to any of your Pokemon. So you see there, Grass and Psychic key for the Giratina attack. We've spoken about the counts of energy across the day. 4 Grass, 4 Psychic here for Alex, which allows him to not, prize 1 or discard 1 early, or even put 1 in the Lost Zone too soon, and can just confidently know there's 4 in there, can get rid of a few before needing to worry about that.
Yeah, and Alex put up an amazing board, having 1 Giratina V-Star in play, having 1 Giratina V with 1 energy attached already. So it will be really important to have multiple attackers so that once your first Pokemon gets knocked out, you still have your second benched one to come back, because that will be key here. We will see the Arceus promoted, but with that Giratina V-Star charged up with 3 energies, is that a third energy, the golden one, or is that potentially an item or a tool? We'll have to find out, but even with a third... there could be a golden capture
energy.
It's
an air balloon, I believe, there. So yeah, air balloon blinged out on the side of Alex on that Giratina on the bench. So got both the grass and the psychic energy, just needing a third energy. Can manually attach any of the energies in the deck to fulfill that colorless attack cost at the end of Giratina's attack. But Arceus there, powered up fully, and the Marnie's going to come out here. by Lucas. So that's going to disrupt any of Alex's plans that he had in his hand. And right now the Arceus will be able to attach to either the Flying Pikachu or the Giratina as Lucas sees fit.
Yeah, we saw the Moni in play, and on top of that, Evolution Incense, getting that Bibarel out will be very great against Hand's Disruption. And with 5 cards in your hand and the Evolution Incense played, you can even draw 1 card off this Bibarel here for up to 5 cards. That will be a great way towards the end of the game, maybe with a Roxanne coming from Alex's side. But yeah, there's a first knockout and free energies going up right onto that Giratina.
Yeah, so the Trinity Nova coming through there, as you said, accelerating energy. We've got that lightning energy in the Arceus Giratina, so that allows for the Flying Pikachu to be available. Arceus and Flying Pikachu, partnered up for that, both the winner and the finalist at the most recent TCG Worlds. Now Giratina, a new partner into that Arceus toolbox, I guess you could say. Lots of different attack approaches that you can have. And the Pikachu, very good in the Palkia matchup, allows you to have the weakness there, and can be used to block out basics when you're up against the likes of Regigigas.
Absolutely. Not as relevant here against the Giratina V-Star, but can block damage from basic Pokemon. Potentially from a Giratina V, of course. And there's still this option for going for Thunder Shock and paralyzing your opponent, preventing them from attacking or manually retreating as well.
Yeah, there's all sorts of little options with that Flying Pikachu to get you out of a sticky situation in a pinch. And it's also a free retreater, which is always quite nice to have in a deck. So that Flying Pikachu, it's a 1-1 line, but does have some utility there on the side of Lucas. But that first attack coming out from Lucas, it will only get a single prize in the case the Comfey was removed. So it will be knocked out and put in the discard pile. And I think at this stage, as we see, there's enough in the Lost Zone, so that's why that Comfey knockout wasn't too bad, because a Star Requiem coming out by Alex means that big Arceus in the active spot is knocked out, but we might see a return knockout here thanks to the powered up Giratina that happened in the previous turn through that Trinity Nova.
Absolutely. I was going to say that Lost Impact is not quite enough because of that Radiant God of War, but having the option being up at 10, that's quite interesting in the mirror, actually, because of Arceus not having the access to that Star Requiem, basically. You're the only player. Having your Lost on count up so early, up to 10, allows you to take that knockout, still keep your energy. However, with free energies, Lost Impact can just come back, take the knockout here, and that's when it's crucial that you have a second attacker ready to go.
Yeah, one of the great things about Arceus Giratina is you've got access to that Radiant Gardevoir for the 20 damage reduction from Pokemon Vs. You also normally have a Big Charm in there, so you can start making yourself bulkier. Because you know you can't get those one-hit knockouts with the Arceus, you have to start thinking about surviving more turns. So the Big Charm plus Gardevoir combination is great for that, and the Star Requiem is a way to get over it, but only once per game. So you're going to have to find a new way around that bulkiness that Lucas can put forward. Alex will have to think about maybe targeting some of those bench Pokemon.
Absolutely. So there's the threat of Lost Impact here. We'll have to discard 2 energies, though. So he has to find a way to keep his energies alive, have enough energies in play. He doesn't have that Mirage Gate to accelerate more energies. And his RC is already down, so he doesn't have the option to just discard the double turbo energy either. So it will be 2 energies from either his active or one of the bench Pokemon, and it will be tricky to keep attacking with a Lost Impact.
Indeed, and we see that Marnie again for disruption. I believe Joe Bernard, who was on stream before, he was playing a very similar deck to this, and he tweeted out saying, I managed to path Marnie myself to day 2. So path plus Marnie is a wonderful combination that can disrupt people. Not as relevant in this matchup because there's not a huge amount you need to worry about pathing, but the threat of Luminion, maybe a Radiant Greninja might get used to try and draw, so it can make things more awkward out of the Marnie. So the Giratina here, getting that knockout and then getting that vital Big Charm out of the prizes. Yeah,
I like the dynamic of this Giratina face-off here. One, we already see the Star Requiem, but on the other side, we like Alex is not playing that Radiant God of War himself, so he struggles to deny the KOs. So Lucas was quite comfortable promoting his Giratina V-Star, using Lost Impact, taking the knockout, because he knew without a choice belt, like Alex won't be able to KO in return. And of course he doesn't have access to the list, so he's not quite sure if there potentially is a choice belt or not here to increase the numbers and take the knockout, or potentially play the Path of the Peak if that is in there to negate the ability of rule box Pokemon such as that Radiant Gardevoir.
And that's it. And the path in this situation could negatively impact Lucas. An interesting combination where you've got such an important ability on your Arceus VStar, yet you're willing to put that path on the list and sprinkle it in at the right times to force your opponents out to find new options. As you mentioned, right now that Radiant Gardevoir is important enough that they want to keep the path out of play so that it still remains active and keeps that Giratina V-Star in the active spot too big for a lost impact. And that's where you start looking at the Luminion, the Giratina V and the Flying Pikachu V on the bench and start wondering, where's the access to boss here for Alex?
Absolutely, and as we're heading towards the end of Game 1, we actually see how players making sure that they're aware of all the discard, like all the cards in the discard pile of the opponent, making sure, going through the possible lines of your opponent, especially with each flower selection. You want to make sure that the cards that are crucial towards your end game are actually still in your deck or in your hand, so you don't want to discard anything. But seeing that potentially like 2 monies have already been played, less likely to get hand disrupted, you want to keep some cards in your hand.
An interesting support to include for Lucas. We have seen one of them played, and you can actually see one in the Lost Zone there. The Chorus Experiment. We're starting to see used in some non-Lost Zone engine decks because it's such a good draw engine to see 5 cards and just put 2 in the Lost Zone. Access to 5 cards through draw is amazing. You know, we've seen cards such as Marnie get used, and you're disrupting yourself down to 5 cards, but it's often enough to get through. Imagine adding 5 cards into your hand of your choice and then going, I don't need these 2. They go to the Lost Zone. So Chorus Experiment has started being used just as a draw supporter on the side of Lucas here. But now that Luminion in the active spot. And
seems like it took a shred to take 160 damage there.
Interesting. Is that to potentially
finish that up with a Sableye afterwards? That's one option. We talked about how
the Zigzagoon Ping could be an option as well with the Headbutt Tantrum.
Yeah, exactly. With Luminion at 170 HP, it is just 10 HP short of being knocked out. Another dynamic that we haven't touched early on in this game is how Lucas technically doesn't have access to Star Requiem early on, but you just mentioned he's playing 3 copies of Chorus Experiment. If he somehow buys 1 or 2 turns where he can Abyss Seek to increase his Lost Zone count even further, he might crunch up the numbers up to 10, which won't be easy, but gives you 1 more chance. However, you have to ask yourself, is it worth setting up Star Requiem when he can also just attack twice? Yeah,
maybe that Luminion play was to avoid the Roxanne, because once you get down below 3 prizes, you can get Roxanne. We know here that that's not a problem. Roxanne not appearing in the list of Lucas, but that is something that a lot of people have had to play through and around all weekend, because Roxanne has brought back games which seemed unwinnable just through a Roxanne disrupting the hand down to those 2 cards being enough of a threat. So if you get that damage and finish it off later, next turn can go for the double knockout and potentially win the game that way.
Absolutely. One way to play around the Roxanne is with that setup of KO. You can actually take multiple prize cards and then win the game before going down to like below 3.
Yeah, very smart.
By taking the ping and taking 2 knockouts and then potentially taking out another V Pokemon, you're not in danger of getting a Roxanne. So very smart adaptation there. Very smart way to play. We see a double turbo energy hitting the Luminion. I think one way to play around, of course, is that Aqua Return that we already saw twice on stream.
Yeah, that's a potential. Aqua Return being needing a water double colorless. The only downside to that, the water double colorless, is that for a Mirage Gate engine, you can power it up in 1 turn. The only way Lucas could power it up in 1 turn is if he had water energy in his deck, which he doesn't have available because he plays Radiant Greninja as opposed to Radiant Gardevoir as opposed to Radiant Greninja, which means that he's not going to have water energies there. So that Luminion did get knocked out there by the Headbutt Tantrum. This is the kind of player we like to see on stream. Alex showing exactly what top players are capable of, the kind of decision making they do to avoid potential outs, put themselves in the strongest position. As we said, playing around Roxanne has been something that not enough players have thought about and have been caught off guard when they're 1 or 2 prizes away from victory, not got a great board state, Roxanne plus a knockout, and they get out of the game.
Yeah, so the missing pieces to victory here would be a gust of one of the Pokemon V, especially the Giratina V on the bench, and then finding the Giratina V-Star to evolve.
And also, by having a non-attacking V in the active spot, they had to find a way to retreat it, and that's another factor that a lot of people have to consider, is when you put something in the active spot and it has to be retreated, it's another thing the opponent has to think about. So that Luminium play was genius from Alex, and I don't know if I can overstate enough how smart that kind of play is. I think a lot of people at home will think of that and go, oh, I might bring that into my game, start putting stuff into the active, leaving it for the headbutt tantrum in the future, or even like an Inteleon quick shooting ping, or if you've got a Sableye, using that sprinkling of damage is such a good way to guarantee good board state for the future.
Yeah, and Lucas is actually in a quite precarious situation here, but use that Charon's Care to remove a colorless Pokemon with damage also helps him to retreat it and promote basically the Giratina VStar now, which is facing the Cramorant. Unfortunately, Lucas has to take 3 more prize cards by attacking here and discarding a double turbo energy. He is at 2 prize cards remaining. However, if Alex Szymanski finds a way to access the Giratina V-Star and has a Gust, doesn't even need the Gust I suppose, but would need to find a way to shut off that Radiant God of War to be able to take the knockout.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Sharon's Care over the weekend. A great include in any deck which has big normal type attackers like Arceus, like the Hisuian Zoroark. It helps in those low prize matchups, the Regigigas and with the Lost Box, because you take those hits, you need to recover it. Sharon's Care does so, so it helps you win you back turns. But in this case, being used on the barrel is basically a switch out, remove that 110 damage from the game. But as we mentioned, that big charm plus the Radiant Gardevoir makes this Giratina V-Star very bulky, but there is a Giratina V there that wasn't evolved and is vulnerable. So right now, this looks like the route Alex is going to be trying to take here. Ordinary Rod, bringing Edgies back into the play. There's only 2 energy on that Giratina, so he has another Mirage Gate after the Ordinary Rod, and Alex is going to take the game. What a route to victory there, having to get that bench Pokemon up to move around the big charm and the Radiant Gardevoir.
Found their basic Pokemon to start the next game. I like how the sleeves are matched up here. It's orange against...
See, I personally don't like that because I don't know whose deck's who. But I think there's slightly different tones of... There's like one's a brown.
Yes.
And then one of them is sort of like a browny pink.
Yeah, looking at the start actually and at the prizes here, we see the Zigzagoon as a start, which is not quite amazing. And there's the Giratina with a single attachment, the Path to the Peak, and a pass. So let's see, there's a Luminion, which will be neglected through that Path to the Peak, of course. Let's see what else he can get out of the Colress to start off with this first turn in game 2.
I like how you quickly moved on from my sidetrack, but it is important that we take a moment to look at the active Pokemon. We see, firstly, a Zigzagoon in the active spot. Never something you want to start with. Battle VIP Pass will help in that situation, but still, a Pokemon you don't really want on the field unless you've put it into play for the reasons we saw in the last game. But then as far as prize cards go, again, on the Giratina V side, some of the important cards like Greninja, like the Snorlax, in those prizes. Otherwise, nothing too crazy. Cramorant, there's 2 of those in the deck. But as you keep gesturing to me, that opposite side, 3 Marnie will be taken probably first, because generally these players will be taking from that bottom up. And so those Marnies will be available later on. But that is 3 of the 4 Marnie in Lucas's deck in the prizes.
Absolutely. We saw how big of a role they played in the first game. Like Lucas was back-to-back playing the Marnie, not only getting a fresh hand himself, but was disrupting the Colress and flower selection, increasing the hand count of cards. So not having that available, leaving Alex to his full potential with his full hand makes it quite hard to actually disrupt and make sure that he doesn't get the full setup. So yeah, he started with the Zigzagoon, was able to actually retreat it, starts with the flower selection, the first one, and even in the first turn, like thanks to the Colress and the flower selection, he's already at Lost Zone count 3.
I think I've decided on the color name for Lucas's sleeves. I think salmon sums it up nicely. So we'll see how this turn goes here for Alex. We saw the VIP pass getting out all the useful bits. We see the flower selecting Comphase there and are easily available to use, and a quick and easy flower selecting there for Alex as he's going to go into his next Comphase to do flower selecting. Top 2 cards there we see. Ooh,
another scoop up net.
Quick decision here, going for the Psychic. I think confident that the 4 count of Psychic in his deck might be worth it, but still not quite sure. Oh, last minute switch, scoop up net.
Interesting, like he has 1 Psychic Energy in hand. He decided, it's quite interesting, he could have used the Scoop Up Net to retreat the Comfy as well. However, he has chosen to use the Psychic Energy, attach, and manually retreat, so the Psychic Energy ends up in the discard pile.
You can see a Psychic Energy in his hand as well, and maybe he hasn't had a chance to really check those energy. He did with the Battle VIP pass at the start, but maybe not quite clocking how many Psychic Energy were there. So one in the discard pile now, one in the hand, and really not wanting to put too many in the lost zone, especially with the attack cost of Lost Mine might come into relevance. So Psychic Energy definitely more important than the Grass Energy to keep in deck, but ultimately the 4 count should keep him pretty safe from going all out with those Psychics when removing them from play.
Absolutely. I suppose his plan was to promote the Cramorant eventually and attack with that, and through attaching the energy and retreating, he still had the energy in his discard pile, gets access to that through the ordinary rod later on in the game, which is better than having a scoop up net in the discard pile, which he won't use anymore.
Yeah, while we were watching Alex's turn there, Lucas just getting a turn attachment onto the Arceus on the bench. The lightning energy there, you see 110 damage remaining on that Giratina from the Innocent Spit of Cramorant. And there was an Abyss Seeking done by Giratina. As you can see, 2 in the Lost Zone, 2 cards there.
Looks like 2 Arceus?
Yeah, the Arceus, the option there going into the Lost Zone. So Abyss Seeking, kind of like a Chorus Experiment, allows you to dig a bit deeper, but definitely not the option you want to be taking most of the time, especially down a game.
Yeah, we see another 110 damage Spit innocently, not as innocent as you would think, which double hitting, taking out the Giratina V and taking the first 2 prize cards here in top 8.
Yes, and the Cramorant has done a few of those double spits where it's taken out a V Pokemon, because that 110 damage works perfectly with the 220 hit point Pokemon Vs. Just 2 in a row, announcing those attacks back to back. A very good way to get rid of Vs early on whilst you're building up that Lost Zone.
And of course we see the ability that we have talked over and over again. Starbuff getting any 2 cards out of your deck. It is a double turbo energy, allowing him to use Trinity Nova. On top of that, he also has the Mani, the one last remaining Mani in his deck, to further, to start disrupting Alex's beautiful, big hand, of course.
He needs to start finding another attacker to build up on. After using that Trinity Nova, needs somewhere to put those energies. And he's going to be looking across, seeing that Giratina VStar on Alex's side, powered up and ready to do the damage. And it may only need to do a Lost Impact, because last time the only reason Lost Impact wasn't effective was because of the Radiant Gardevoir and the Big Charm, whereas right now neither of those are in play. So Lucas definitely on the back foot here, and he's going to be looking to prioritize the Radiant Gardevoir. Longevity more important right now than the ability to knock out.
Yeah, keep in mind the Radiant Gardevoir also protects the Arceus, so you don't want to leave that open for an easy knockout either. But it looks like he prioritizes drawing more cards. He's just not quite happy with his setup yet. Yes, he has the Arceus, but he doesn't have any Giratina on the bench yet. It's interesting that he didn't pick up a Giratina that he could charge up, but instead wanted 3 more cards. Let's see if there's another quick ball. That way he gets access to his Giratina and can start setting that up.
Yeah, using the quick ball to discard the Arceus V-Star there. Probably won't be looking to get another one of those out. Really needs access to those Giratina, and does get one on the bench there. If he can fill out this bench here, then he'll be able to use the Collapse Stadium maybe to get rid of the Crobat, which he's benched. And no one really wants to have Crobat down in a matchup where they might need to just boss's orders something on the bench for game. So a lot to think about here, a lot to come back from for Lucas. But still, that longevity through the Radiant Gardevoir is going to be key to survive in the active spot and force that boss's orders out of his opponent.
Yeah, and we see how Lucas responds. Trinity Nova here, getting 3 energies on the Giratina. Looks like only picking 2. Making sure that he still has some in his deck, I suppose, for the following turns. And just has 2 attackers lined up here. Let's see if Alex finds an answer to that. He has his Giratina V-Star, but he has to respect that Radiant Gardevoir reducing the damage. We talked about this. He has no choice spell in his deck list, so that makes it quite hard to pick up the KOs. However, he actually decides to boss up that Giratina V on the bench.
Yeah, that's what we expected to see, and I think that's part of the reason why Lucas didn't fully attach, because in his head he knew there's a good chance it might get knocked out. But even then, if it does get knocked out, he's going to be so far behind, because all it will be on Alex's side he'll need is 2 prizes, and that will be the Crobat, right? So at this stage, Lucas can't start building up any Vs without the threat of a boss's orders. There is only 2 boss's orders in Alex's list, so stuff might become safe on the bench if we see those boss's orders come out, but That's why he only needs 2. He normally doesn't need to worry about bossing too often.
Yeah, and Alex must be feeling great here. He took the first game in a commanding position. He's now leading, only needs 2 more prize cards to take. His Giratina in the active spot is not there. And we see the fist bump. Lucas deciding that there's no way I can come back into this game. Very